Hey YouTube, it's Owl. I'm back. I wanted to do a tag video because there's so many cool tag videos out there that I haven't done yet, and I do plan to do some after this, but I really wanted to do my own as well because that's kind of cool. So I'm just going to pull up my Word a minute and then I'm going to read the questions to you. The tag is called Craft Wisdom. And it was inspired by, I'm sort of teaching an acquaintance of mine who is interested in the craft and came to me for advice because I've been doing this for 12 years and asked me for my advice. So I was thinking about it and I've recommended some books and, you know, the usual stuff you would do for newbies. Also pointed him in the direction of a couple of these YouTube channels that I follow, including my own, so hi. And I thought it would be really cool if, as well as my take on it, he could perhaps watch some other YouTube videos from my pagan sisters and brothers out there on YouTube that I follow, some of whom I know have a lot more experience than I do, and I thought your viewpoints and your experiences and your opinions would be really good. So as a result, I've come up with this tag. There are 5 questions, and I've tagged 5 people, but you can tag as many or as little as you want. It really doesn't matter. But the point is that you tag someone who you feel could give a great answer to these questions, who maybe, you know, I'm not aware of or the others aren't aware of. So, so let's start with the questions. I will obviously answer them as well. So first of all, and I'll put these questions in the down bar as well. Which books would you recommend for a beginner to the path? I've been digging through my witchy library, which is quite big, and I've come up with these. The first one is Book of Shadows by Phyllis Carrot. I don't really know if you can see this. Let me just check on my... Yes, you can. Great, okay. So, this is like a memoir, and I got this book a long time ago. This is probably one of the first ones I ever read, actually, and it is so good. I love it. And I've actually sought out the rest of her books now. I think Phyllis Carrot is a really good writer. So yeah, Phyllis Carrot, Book of Shadows. Secondly, and I'm sure a lot of you will say this one, Wicked for the Solitary Practitioner by Scott Cunningham. Scott Cunningham seems to be one of those people in the pagan community at large who've sort of become a bit of a legend. Now, whether or not you're into Wicca, I love this book because there are so many other things he did that were part of his practice. It wasn't all about Wicca. He was very individual, and he had a great focus on herb magic and Hawaiian magic and magic in the kitchen, which really appeals to me because I love to cook. So that would be my second recommendation. Last of all, this is one I've actually come to more recently, but it's equally good. Everyday Magic by Dorothy Morrison. I found this about 6 months ago. This really is kind of a working spell book. It's not so much about of a how-to book as a collection of spells and rituals that you can use. And for the beginner, I think this is really good for getting into daily practice. Obviously, we tell, you know, newbies as you go along, you can write your own spells, create your own rituals, and that's obviously more powerful, but to start off with, this is brilliant. Okay, so that was question number 1. Question 2. Which herbs would you recommend a beginner acquire first? As we know, there are a lot of videos on YouTube of my pagan sisters and brothers sharing their herbs, their herbal tinctures and stuff, but it does take a very long time to build up a collection. If you even have the space. I mean, not all people do. I've sort of gotten the space as I've been living with my husband as opposed to my parents. So my herb collection grows all the time. But for beginners, I would recommend frankincense. You don't have to go out and buy expensive mixed loose incense. Just burn frankincense. You can just put it on a charcoal block and let it smoulder. The scent is amazing. It's such a spiritual herb. It's calming. It's good for ritual in general. So that would be my first one. Sandalwood. I love the smell of sandalwood. Always find it gives a sacred space, a really spiritual feel, a calming presence. It's good for calling the goddesses and the gods too. Dragon's blood, probably one of the more, what's the word I want? Obscure, I guess. The more obscure resins out there. It's not actual blood, it's resin from a palm tree. But it is incredible. It smells wonderful, it's brilliant on charcoal, you can put it in charm bags, it's fabulous. Rosemary, I use a lot of rosemary. For me, rosemary is an herb of remembrance, but I also use it for many other things. And mugwort. Mugwort is a fabulous witch's herb for prophetic visions, psychic experiences, good for charm bags, good as a tea, although it doesn't really taste the best, but it's good for tea. So yeah, those are my 5 herbs: frankincense, sandalwood, dragon's blood, rosemary, and mugwort. Question 3. In a similar vein, which oils are best for newbies to spell work? I've picked 4, and this took me about 15-20 minutes to think about because I have a lot of essential oils and I love them. I'm trained to be an aromatherapist, so I have a lot of oils. But for me, if I was making a witchy first aid kit of essential oils, my go-tos would be lavender. It's a good all-rounder, smells good, calming, doesn't have any contraindications as far as I know, although obviously if you are pregnant or you have a skin condition, be careful with any oil. But lavender is really gentle, good all-rounder. Peppermint, fabulous for spiritual cleansing. If you spray it around a room, it just changes the feel of the air immediately. Tastes good, but I wouldn't, don't drink the oil, but you know what I mean. Bergamot, smells fantastic, really good for prosperity magic. And lime. That's a personal one because I love the smell of lime, and to me it's a very uplifting, positive, encouraging oil. So I put a drop of lime in pretty much all my spell bags and charms because to me it evokes happiness and indulgence and all those good things. Question 4. Who was your biggest inspiration when starting out? This was a difficult one because I had to remember a long way away. I'm 30 now and I was 18 when I started practicing the craft. But the only thing I could really think of, we didn't have YouTube then so much, or at least if we did, I wasn't on it and I wasn't aware of the pagan community on YouTube. Otherwise, they would have absolutely been you guys, the pagan YouTube community, because you're all fabulous. And I'm so pleased to be a part of this community. But when I started out, I don't think YouTube even existed. If it did, I wasn't very aware of it. So for me, it was all the authors I read. Scott Cunningham, Phyllis Carrot, who else? John Michael Greer, because I started on a druid. My path has always been blended equally between witchcraft and druidry. So authors like Ember, Philip Cargom, Ross Nichols, and yeah, I've gone completely blank. I'm trying to look at my bookshelf to come up with some names, but those are the ones that come to mind. Last of all, and I thought this was a really interesting question because my apprentice, for want of a better word, I tend to refer to him as my apprentice, but that makes me sound a bit sorcerer's apprentice, but you know what I mean. My student now sometimes has a few worries about, should I do this and should I do this, which is perfectly natural. I remember I had the same worries and thoughts when I started. So the last question is, question 5, is there anything you wish someone had told you when you began practicing? And if so, what is it? For me, it wasn't anything about the craft itself. It wasn't anything, because most of it was already in the books I read. But the one thing I wish people had told me when I started practicing, just so I could prepare for it, was some people in your life won't accept your practice. But that's okay. It's a chance to reevaluate whether those people are the kind of people you want in your life. With me, my parents didn't take it too well. I was 18, so they couldn't really do anything. I was living with them. So they couldn't... Well, they could kick me out, but they didn't. I was of age, there's nothing they could say to me because I was old enough to practice legally, but they didn't accept it for a while. They thought it was a phase, they thought I'd met some guy online who was leading me down this path, all that sort of thing. I know, right? Trust. But that wasn't the case. I just found it on my own and I was fascinated by it. And the way I responded to that was I wasn't overt about it. They never said I couldn't practice in the house, so I never stopped, but I was very discreet about it. You know, I still bought my books, I kept them discreetly, I didn't leave them all over the house, I didn't shout about it, I didn't tell all my friends about it. It wasn't something I was doing just to be cool, or because it was in. I mean, at the time, Charmed and Practical Magic and all those things were really big. There was sort of a resurgence in the craft, in popular culture. But that's not why I got into it. I got into it because for the first time I found the spirituality that spoke to me. So I carried on reading, and I carried on practicing, and I carried on buying my herbs and my oils and doing crafts and all the things I still do. And eventually they accepted it because they could see that I was serious about it. It wasn't just a fad, and it wasn't dark, it wasn't scary, it was just something I was doing, something I believed in, and eventually they accepted it. And these days they're quite interested. You know, my father asks me questions about it, and my mother, well, my mother's been helping me sort out the witchy room, so. But if it'd been somebody else, if it'd been a friend or a partner, I think I would have seen that as a sort of alarm bell, and I would have evaluated whether I wanted that person in my life. Because more often than not, people who forbid you from doing things without even listening to your side of the story, obviously, you know, when you first tell someone, it can come from fear, and that's perfectly natural. People fear what they don't understand. But if it's a constant thing of, you're not doing this, I forbid you to do this, that's a control thing, and that for me would be an alarm bell. I would be considering whether I wanted to keep my relationship with that person going, and that's what I mean by that. So those are the 5 questions. I hope you found my answers interesting and useful. I'm going to throw this out now to 5 other people. These 5 people are the people I spend most time on YouTube watching at this present time. I'm lucky enough to know most of them on Facebook, so I'm going to be posting this video on Facebook too. But the people I would like to tag are Brenda, Crozier, LycaWolf, theladygravedancer, Ember, HoneyRaven, and Sunshine Morning Ray. Ladies, it's open to you. So take this tag and run with it, please. I cannot wait to see your answers. I cannot wait to see your video responses. Feel free to attach your videos as a video response to mine, or I'm subscribed to all of you anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you just upload it on your channel as normal. That's fine. But if you want to make a video response version of it, that would be great. We're looking forward to seeing your answers. So after this video, I'm going to make some other tag videos that I've seen on other channels. So stay tuned for those. And in the meantime, thank you very, very much for watching. Blessed be, and have a wonderful day. Thanks.